भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति न विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अमृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साम्यपदक्रमोपनिषदैः सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Let us recite the verses from the beginning on page 8. Arjuna uvacha ye shastravidimutsrajya yajante shraddhayanvitaha तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः। श्रीभगवानुवाच सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत। श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः। यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः। प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः। आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानम् तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु. This is the chapter of the Bhagavad Gita on Shraddha. We discuss how the word Shraddha is made up of two elements, Shrat and Dha. Shrat means Satyam, truth. Dha means to uphold, so that which a person upholds as truth in his or her life is the basic element of Shraddha. So what I uphold or consider as truth determines the priorities in my life, determines my values, determines my attitudes, determines my choices. Therefore Lord Krishna said, Yoya Shraddhasya Vasaha. What Shraddha is that what the person is. Shraddha Mayoyam Purusha, as though the person is made up of Shraddha. Therefore it is very important to understand the Shraddha, which is translated as faith. But as we saw, that faith is one aspect of Shraddha. It is what the basic conviction is there in my life, or what is truth in my life. What is truth in the life? And what is the goal? What's the way? What choices are to be made for that? What are the attitudes? What are the values? What are the choices? A combination of all of this can be called Shraddha. And the Lord Krishna says, Shraddha Mayoyam Purusha, since this person is made up of Shraddha, by understanding what my Shraddha is, I can understand myself. And the purpose of understanding myself is to recognize that as I am right now, as my convictions are right now, as my choices are right now, do they fit into, are they compatible to what the scriptures say I should be? Shastra or scriptures tell me what I should be. And therefore, when I compare myself as to what I am now and what I should be, then it gives me the purpose of life, the guidance as to how do I need to bring about some changes in me, so that I am what the scriptures think that I should be, which is what is required for me to reach the goal of life, which is very simple: happiness or freedom or success, same thing. Thus, to make my life successful, to gain the freedom or happiness which I am seeking, I should ideally be the person that the Shastra or the Scripture says I should be. And now Lord Krishna gives us here pointers in next several verses to enable me to understand what my present composition is and how can I align my personality, my being, my Shraddha with what it should be. You follow? And therefore, very important to understand ourselves. Very important to understand our mind. What are my priorities right now? What are my values? What are my attitudes? What are my choices? This is what is the composition of my being. And therefore in this chapter, Lord Krishna gives 4 important activities that a human being normally performs in the life. There are many things that we do, of which 4 things are chosen which are considered to be necessary to be done. And with reference to that, I can look at my own mind and understand what is the composition or disposition of my mind and what I need to do, if anything. These 4 activities are called, in the verse that you just read, the 4th verse, ahara, the food. One of the very important things in our life, because we need to consume food, to survive, to live our life. Yajna. Yajna means act of worship. And we will discuss a little bit more about yajna when we come to that. But then, worship is a very necessary aspect of life. So, what is the nature of my worship? What is the nature of food? So, what is my choice with reference to food? In what way, what are my attitudes when I perform a yajna or an act of worship? Tapaha, austerities are also an integral part of life. What kind of austerities I perform and what are my attitudes in performing them? And dhanam, charity, is another important aspect of a religious person. So these 4 things, that particularly yajna, tapaha, dhanam, the worship, the austerity and the charity are prescribed as the daily duties that a person should perform. Meaning that these 3 should be there in the life of everybody. They are prescribed as daily duties that we should perform. Therefore, they are mentioned. And in many places, Lord Krishna mentions these 4. Like in the 9th chapter, Lord Krishna said, Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhoshi, dadasiyat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in the yajna, whatever penance you perform, whatever charity you do, offer them. The same things are mentioned there. That is the reason, because these are considered to be important activities in life. And Lord Krishna describes here the choices that I find making during this thing, or the attitudes I find entertaining within my mind, which is what enables me to understand my own mind. Then now Lord Krishna begins with the discussion of food. I can get an understanding of my mind or disposition of mind based on my choice of food. And so, let us go to the... So now, these choices enable me to analyze myself as whether my mind has predominance of sattva, predominance of rajas, or predominance of tamas. what we wish to be is predominantly a sattvic person. Because, as we said earlier, sattva means clarity, purity, tranquility, cheerfulness. So the extent to which my mind becomes sattvic, to that extent I discover for my own self a cheerfulness, tranquility, purity, clarity, something that which we love, which is what we wish to have, freedom, happiness. And therefore, the most important accomplishment in our life is to transform our mind into a sattvic mind. When we have that, then the ultimate goal of moksha or unconditional freedom or happiness is not far away. When the mind is sattvic, then what you are seeking in terms of what is called moksha, unconditional freedom, is not far away. Then in fact, the listening to the scriptures, the meditation upon that, all of that becomes very, very effective. We should do shravanam, we should listen to scriptures regardless. But the extent to which our mind enjoys purity, to the extent that listening becomes more effective. Because we have clarity of understanding. We understand what is taught in the same sense in which it is meant to be communicated. Therefore, particularly in pursuit of knowledge, a sattvic mind is an extremely important mind. Why knowledge? Even for bhakti also. For karma also, for anything. You want to be karma yogi, you want to be bhakti yogi, you want to be jnana yogi, whatever you want to be, each one of them. The sattvicness of the mind is a requirement. A bhakta or devotee also is a sattvic person. A seeker of knowledge also should ideally be a sattvic person. In fact, when Patanjali Yoga, all of them also, because when they talk about dharana, dhyanam, samadhi, all of these things become possible when the mind enjoys sattva. And then can be focus of the mind, concentration of the mind. Then I can maintain the desired flow of thought in mind called dhyanam. And then samadhi absorption is possible. So each of these spiritual disciplines that are taught to us, all of them become most beneficial, meaningful, rewarding to us when the mind enjoys sattva. I'm not a spiritual person, just to enjoy my day-to-day life also. To enjoy the things that are given to me by nature, by God. I've been given a body. I'm given the faculties of hearing, seeing, thinking, talking, walking. Nature is around me. All of this is adequate for me to be happy. If I have those objects of pleasure, that is like the icing on the cake. But even if I do not have them, I can myself become the source of happiness for me. More sattvic the mind becomes, more I am comfortable with myself. More I am happy with myself. More independent I become of the need of the happiness or security from others. And therefore everybody, the purity, clarity of the mind is extremely important. In fact, even to be a good, successful person in the life, you want to be a good businessman, exactly what do you want? Because you can be effective provided you are a good leader, you make right kind of decisions. Decision making is extremely important. And decision requires an assessment of the situation, judgment of the situation. All of this also requires clarity of mind. A mind free from conflicts, mind free from anger and jealousy, that mind I require to clearly assess even a business situation, any situation. And therefore, for generally being happy in our life, being an effective person, enjoying my relationship, enjoying everything, this purity of mind, this sattvic quality of mind is most essential. Otherwise, life becomes a struggle. We think that the world gives me stresses, that they may, as I said earlier. But if our mind itself enjoys the tranquility, enjoys self-control, self-assurance, then I can negotiate myself in the midst of a variety of challenges and situations. That is sattvic mind, in other words, mind enjoying tranquility, freedom from conflicts, is a most a requirement, greatest, for living happy and meaningful life. So now let us read the next verse. The Lord Krishna describes, it is not so much sattvic food that Lord Krishna described. Lord Krishna described the choice of a sattvic person. What kind of food a sattvic person likes? What kind of food a rajasic person likes? What kind of food a tamasic person likes? Food, of course, is the integral part of our life. And from our choice of liking of food itself, we can get a sort of assessment of what our nature is. So, what is the choice of food on the part of people who are sattvic, meaning who enjoy a predominance of sattva? So let us read the verse number 5. Ayus sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhana. For those who don't have this booklet, they are available on the counter. Yasya snigdha sthira hridyaha ahara sattvika priyaha. See the last quarter of the verse, aharaha sattvika priyaha. These are the foods that are liked by sattvic people. The Lord Krishna will tell us the foods that are liked by rajasic people and foods liked by the tamasic people. Since we are interested in sattva, therefore we have chosen this verse. So the translation, Ayuhu sattva bala arogya sukha priti vivardhanaha ahara. Ahara, those foods that are vivardhanaha, that increase. Ayuhu, longevity. Sattva, see the translation, mental clarity. Bala, strength. Arogya, health. Sukha, happiness. Priti, delight. These are when the food creates this kind of a response from my mind, that I am happy and I am delighted at the food when the food comes to me, creates in me a delight. When I eat the food, it makes me happy. And further, the food is conducive to longevity, ayu, gives mental clarity, sattva, gives the strength of the body, balam, is conducive to my health, arogya, gives me happiness, sukha, and creates a delight in my mind. So that is the food, that is what a sattvic person feels about the food. Very important activity in our life, food. So what kind of foods will do this to you? Rasyaha, snigdaha, sthiraha, hrudyaha. Rasyaha, which are delicious, having rasa, like rasagulla, like rasa, delicious. Snigdaha, which are snigdha, oily or smooth, easily it can be swallowed, not dry. Sthiraha, hrudyaha. Sthira means those which are steady. Just to give you an example, take a potato and take a piece of meat and leave them out, for a period of time. You find that the meat starts stinking in no time, whereas the potato remains as it is for a period of time. So what happens out there is what happens in our body also. So those kinds of foods, they have long-term effect on our body. They are called sthiraha. Snigdaha. You enjoy eating and swallowing the food. Like halwa, etc., which has ghee in there, sneha. And if you like sweets, then they just create delight in you when you see them. And they say that they are very conducive because Ayurveda ghrutam. Ayurveda says that ghrutam or ghee or clarified butter means longevity. That gives you longevity. This comes from Ayurveda. Vidya, the food that is pleasing to you. When you see that, then you are enthused, encouraged. When walking along the pavements on the in New York City, I think it was, if I remember, Madison Avenue or some next avenue. The restaurants there. They display things. In one of them, what was displayed? Lobster was displayed. Now, there were people who just were delighted seeing that. There were people who may feel like vomiting when you see something like that. Or when you go to a restaurant, they present this. What do you want? Which one do you want? They cook right in Japanese, they cook right in front of you, all these things. So it depends, what kind of choices you have. But something just throws up when I see. Hridya. But the food, when it comes to a plate, is something that is delightful to you, something that is pleasing to you, something that is nourishing to you. So, this is the kind of food that is liked by sattvic people. Lord Krishna proceeds to say that the people who have rajas in predominance, you know what they like? Very bitter katu, very bitter, amla, very sour, lavana, very, what shall I say? Very salty. Ushna, Tikshna, Ruksha, Vidahinaha. Very hot. Some people just like food that is so hot. They want tea, is boiling tea, they directly take, that's what they like. One thing they like warm food is something that's like very hot food. Tikshna, very pungent. Ruksha, very dry. Vidahina, burning. So there are people, so they do that and still they enjoy that food, burning. Burns their mouths. Whatever happens to them next morning, I don't know, but that's what they enjoy. Ahara, rajasasya ishtaha. A person enjoying, having rajoguna in predominant, he likes, it's one thing to have shad rasa in our food. Ayurveda prescribes that. Ideally, we should have all these rasa. That there must be some bitterness also, some sourness also, some saltiness also. So all these shad rasa should be there in certain proportion. But excessive. Somebody like excessively salty. And so I know some people that as you serve them food, it starts sprinkling salt. So we taste it. No, enjoy sprinkling salt. Takes lemon, but he taste it. No, he just enjoys making it so sour. Katu, very bitter. Bitter things to some extent is all right, but people enjoy very bitter food. Very hot, very pungent, very burning. Aharaha, rajasasya ishtaha, dukkha shokamaya pradaha. When sattvic food gives you sukha, this food gives you dukkha. Pain, shoka. While that one gives you longevity, this one gives you grief and amaya, disease. So these are food that create or result into pain, grief, and disease. And what about the food liked by tamasic people? Yatayanam, not properly cooked. By the way, Ayurveda prescribes that food should be cooked. It should be spiced. This is what they say, which suits me very well because some people like very raw stuff, I usually eat only cooked food. And not bland. I mean, not that it should be excessively, spicy, but it should, moderate spice must be there. Yatayamam, the food that is not properly cooked. Gatarasam, you cook to such an extent that no essence remains in there. Divide of all the essence. You can fry it to death and then becomes very crunchy, but no essence is left in that. Puti, putrid, rotten, paryushitam, stale. Some people just like that kind of food. Uchishtam, impure, abandoned, amedyam, unfit to be offered to devatas. So food that you can offer in the yajna is called medhyam. You know why? Because Lord Krishna says that I dwell in the stomach of all the living beings as the digestive fire. Which means that Lord Himself resides in our stomach as a digestive fire. And therefore, whatever food we are eating is really an offering to the Lord or Devata. That is the reason why very often even the act of eating is compared to performing a yajna, performing a ritual. Like fire sacrifice, fire ritual. Because there is fire in our stomach, which is the law in form of fire, the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita describes how the food that is in my plate also is nothing but Ishvara. Pushnami chausari sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmaka. Lord Krishna says, as the very moon, which is embodiment of sap, I give nourishment and taste to all the vegetables. So therefore, Lord Himself is in the form of food in my plate. He is the one that dwells in the heart of all living beings as the self, so one who eats also is Lord. And when that food is eaten, that itself nourishes my body, and therefore the body also is modification. So this is also Lord. And the fingers with which I eat also is Lord. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam. That with which the food is offered, the fingers also are Lord. Havihi, the morsel of food which is offered to the fire is also Lord. Brahmagnau, the digestive fire to which the food is offered also is fire. Brahmanahutam, the one who performs activity also is Lord. So thus, Ishvara is everywhere. And therefore, really eating the food is an act which becomes a worship to the Lord. Therefore, this food has been given not only important with reference to the pleasure, but reference to even the religious aspect of the life also is much connected to the food. I have brought for you a chart which I saw many years ago in a magazine. Because so many talked about food, all about diets. So just to give you an idea of what was the idea of diet in those days in Ayurveda, what is sattvic food? It says makes the mind calm. You find that the people first of all bless the food with a prayer and by revolving the water around that, blessing the food, sanctifying the food. It's made of fruits, whole grains, lightly cooked vegetables, salad and pure water. Fresh and close to the natural state. The sattvic food is lightly cooked and seasoned. You could also have fresh dairy products, yogurt or cheese made with vegetable rennet. His mind and emotions will be as wholesome as his meal, not disturbed by agitating or dulling elements in his food. His body will be fully nourished by life-giving carbohydrates, protein and vitamins. Whole grains such as wheat, millet, corn, soybeans, lentils, oats and beans. Fresh vegetables such as celery, cauliflower, zucchini, lettuce, green beans, broccoli and asparagus. Fresh fruits, apples, peaches, oranges, bananas, dates, guavas, berries, papayas. All of this is sattvic food, according to Ayurveda. There are millions of kinds of diets. Maybe 10 years we have a new fad about diets, and so that keeps on changing. But this is traditionally what Ayurveda prescribed as an appropriate diet. Rajasic food enjoys meat of spicy fish, potatoes, parsley and wine. That is his meal. Spicy fish, potatoes, parsley and wine. Though nutritious, this food will excite his mind, emotions and body, causing a continuously restless state. Just as he desires new food and spices to enjoy, he desires ever-changing emotional and intellectual gratification. He'll be aggressive with others, not at peace with himself and subject to illness. Fish, fowl, eggs, meat, coffee, tobacco and spicy foods are all rajasic. This diet militates against a calm approach to life. So fish and meat are rajasic. So salmon, sole, trout, lamb, chicken, turkey, tuna, whatever, eggs, spices, too much salt and so forth and so on, and all stimulating foods such as coffee, tea, sugar, cola, drinks and chocolate, and beer and wine are all rajasic. Tamasic food makes the mind dull. Cheeseburger and fries, with bourbon on ice to drink. And that is the meal of a tamasic person. He unwittingly consuming largely lifeless matter. The patty of beef, a tamasic meat, has been treated with chemicals, frozen, then cooked hours in advance. The cheese was curdled with rennet from calf stomach. The refined white bun provides precious little nutrition. His deep-fried French fries are difficult to digest. The drink will blur his senses. With his heavy food to digest, it is no wonder our friend's mind is a little bit dull. So the tamasic beef and veal are tamasic. These are preserved meats such as hot dogs, sausages, sardines, bologna, bacon, ham. Deep fried foods are tamasic such as French fries. So are foods preserved with salt or by pickling in vinegar, by the way. So all pickles are tamasic according to this. Hard liquor is tamasic such as gin, vodka, whatever, whiskey, rum, scotch, martinis and other so forth and so on. Most people know this, but just people keep on asking me what is wrong with meat and what is wrong with that, but this is, the classification of sattvic, rajas and tamas food. And what about this vegan? Said, why am I vegan? Because I avoid all animal products. And so dairy is animal product. Now this is where I must make a comment about milk. The milk of the cow, I do not think that it is an animal product. It is like milk of mother, we do not call it animal product. And cow is looked upon as mother, at least in the Vedic times. Cow was the very center of the entire society. The male and female cow sustained the entire life. The male cow was responsible for the farming, agriculture, and gave all the grains, and female cow provided all the dairy products, which were required for performing the yajnas, which sustained the universe, and required for sustaining the human being. And cow is looked upon as mother, and then those who are believers think that all devatas reside in the cow, so it is not just an animal, it's not only a mother, but it is most worshipful creature. And therefore, just as mother's milk is most desirable for the child, so also cow's milk. Of course, there are some objections. Swami, cow's milk is meant for calf, it's not meant for you. Which may be so. But for whatever reason, in the Vedic times, milk was a very important thing which was offered to devatas. So was curd, so was ghee. All of these was considered the food of devatas, and therefore food properly, ideally for the human being also. So vegan is fine, but at least I would not look upon the milk, cow milk, as animal product. You can always have an argument, Swami, that the way the milk is now these days produced is all torturing the cow. So that can be a reason for you to avoid milk, because it involves violence. But not because milk is an animal product. So in fact, cow's milk has all the ingredients of a mother's milk. Anyway, that is my personal thing about this. When I heard animal product, I didn't like that expression about cow milk, so therefore my 2 cents as far as that is concerned. But this is about the food, the choices of food tells us what the nature is, what our nature is, depending upon what food I like. Then you can say that, so this is for classifying the people, not classifying food, but then you can classify food also. That's sattvic food, rajas food. So food liked by sattvic people can be called sattvic food, liked by rajas people is called rajasic food, and like tamasic food. So this is about ahara. Then we go to the next topic of yajna. on the page 11, verse number 6. Apalakankshiviryajñah कांक्षिभिर्यज्ञः विधिदृष्टोय इज्यते विधिदृष्टोय इज्यते यष्टव्यमेवेति मनः यष्टव्यमेवेति मनः समाधाय स सात्विकः समाधाय स सात्विकः. So now Lord Krishna talks of yajna. Yajna is a unique contribution of the Vedas. And we can say that yajna is the primary subject matter topic of the Vedas. This word yajna is derived from the root yaj, which has three meanings. Deva puja, Sangadikaranam Daneshu, Sangadikaranam Daneshu, Deva Pujana, Sangadikaranam Daneshu. The root yes, which means to worship, has these three meanings. Deva Pujanam, worshipping Devatas, worshipping gods. Sangadikaranam, assembly of the learned and wise people. And Dhanam, charity. So in the Vedic times, when the yajna was an extremely important activity which involved the entire, all different members of the society. I'm sure that you are familiar with what yajna is, a fire ritual, in which you first make an altar with bricks. You bring in the fuel, the wood, you kindle fire and make. So at every stage the process of sanctification is involved. In making bricks and in placing bricks also, the mantras are chanted and they are sanctified. In cutting the wood and bringing the wood and placing them also, mantras are chanted. In lighting the fire also, mantras are chanted. And in that sanctified fire then we invoke the Devatas. Devatas is translated as gods. But all of these gods, such as the sun, Indra, Varuna, Prajapati, these are different Devatas mentioned in the Vedas. And all of these are nothing but the manifestation of God or Ishvara. Ishvara is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, and a fraction of His glory is represented by each of these Devatas. And therefore, when we worship the Devatas, we are worshipping nothing but Ishvara through that. Meaning that the worshipping of Ishvara was the primary purpose of the teaching of the Vedas. And Ishvara or God is worshipped through these different Devatas. Just as when you want to serve a person, say your Guru, then sometimes you massage his legs, massage his head, feed his giving stomach. So different limbs of the body also represent the person. Our Swami used to say that if a surgery is performed on the little finger, the bill comes to me. Meaning that finger also I am, hand also I am, legs also I am, here also I am, because everywhere the I-ness is there. So just as this body is made of different limbs also you can say, Ishvara is made of different limbs, which are each Devata represents like a limb of the Ishvara. And the worshipping Devata is worshipping Ishvara. So therefore, worship of Devata, Ishvara through Devata was the primary thing of the Vedas. In ancient time, the method of worship was through fire. Those days they did not have any murtis or forms. the Ishvara worship through fire. We have 5 elements: space, air, fire, water and earth. Of these 2, the space and air are subtle elements which cannot be seen. First element that is seen is fire. So fire is Pratyaksha Devata, is closest to Ishvara. And therefore, Ishvara or gods are worshipped through agency of fire. You light the fire and invoke the Devata through mantras, invoke the Devatas. Therefore, when you make an oblation in fire, you are not burning something in fire, you are offering it to the respective Devata. Therefore, when oblation is made, you recite a mantra, Indraya Swaha. May this be an offering to Indra, who is God. Varunaya Swaha, Prajapate Swaha, Agnaye Swaha. Having said that, you know what they say? Indraya Swaha, Indraya Idam Namama iti. This is an offering to Indra. It now belongs to Indra. It no more belongs to me. Namama. Meaning that the spirit of sacrifice or renunciation is involved in this performance of yajna, meaning that the worship takes place through the act of offering or renunciation or sacrifice. Devato deshena yajna tyaga yaga. Yaga is described as offering the material to Devata, keeping in mind the Devata. So this is yajna. The Deva Pujanam. Sangadikaranam. In those days when yajna were performed, it was a big ceremony. This to invite not only the various priests for performing the yajna, but also invite learned scholars. So during the day the yajna is performed. Now there are many accounts in the Puranas where we are told that in the evening, learned scholars will give discourses. So thus when Janmeja performed the Sarpa Yaga in the evening, it said that Vedavyasa gave discourse on Mahabharata. In Naimisharanya, when Shaunaka and other rishis were assembled there to perform yajna, then the Sutta Puranika gave the discourses on Bhagavatam, etc. So this is how discourses were given. The scholarly discussions were there. Many aspects of the scriptures would be discussed, debated and settled there. This yajna also involved the assembly of learned people, assembly of elders, assembly of the people whom we invite, Sangatikana. And Dhanam. Not only Dhanam or Dakshina is offered to the priest, but also feeding the needy people, giving them clothes, giving them needed things. Dhanam also was a part of the yajna. You can imagine how it was an all-encompassing ceremony. When you want wood, then you require a carpenter, or you require a woodcutter, you require a brick maker, you require a bricklayer. So masons are required, all sorts of people are required. And that's how it involved the entire village. So yajna in the Vedic times was the most important ceremony. A collective also, yajna also can be interpreted as a collective offering, a cooperative offering of the people concerned. So therefore, yajna was considered a daily obligated duty, and every householder was supposed to perform the prescribed yajna. It is said that from the first day after the marriage, the couple was supposed to perform the Agnihotra karma, where 2 ahutis are given in the morning, 2 ahutis or oblations given in the evening. So yajna was an integral part of life. And therefore Lord Krishna here takes yajna also as also a criterion for judging the kind of attitudes that we have while performing yajna. So the verse that we just read, Lord Krishna says, what will be the attitude of a sattvic person while performing yajna? And this can be also taken as the attitude that a sattvic person has while performing any action. So this verse essentially describes karma yoga. The karma means any duty or any action that is performed, any right action, righteous action that is performed, any duty that is performed, or an action that has to be done to be performed. And yajna is one of them. So Lord Krishna says, what kind of an attitude a sattvic person will have when that person performs yajna or an act of worship or any other duty that he performs, what will be the attitude? First is, afala kangshivihi yajna ijjate. Sacrifice that is performed by those who do not have no attachment to the outcome. Meaning that when an action is performed without an agenda, personal agenda, as to what I stand to gain through the performed action, that agenda is not there, then what is the agenda? When an action is performed, if my personal gain is not the agenda, then what is the agenda? The agenda is in what way the action can become a contribution to the larger group of people, like society, like others. Meaning that a sattvic person, when the mind is sattvic, you feel good about yourself. You feel generous. The generosity, charitableness, etc. is what a sattvic person feels. He feels that he is wealthy, he is rich. And richness is not necessarily measured in terms of the wealth, it is in terms of measure of, the richness of heart. And therefore he wants to do something. That is, he is inspired always to do something for others because he thinks that he has enough that he needs. He is a contributor. And therefore an act, here yajna. But the same rule applies to any action that a sattvic person performs. He performs without the personal agenda called karma phala. Karma phala means the result of the action, which is what usually people perform an action for the reward that the action will bring. But here the sattvic person performs an action not for a personal reward, but as an opportunity to contribute something, to offer something. Afala kangshibihi yajna. Number one, vididrushtaha. According to scriptural injunction, meaning that an action is performed as it should be performed. In case of yajna, you perform the yajna as stipulated by the scriptures. But otherwise also, when you perform your day-to-day activities, you perform them as stipulated by dharma. So for the script of performing the various activities in our day-to-day life, that is by dharma, or what is the right thing to do. Meaning a sattvic person loves to do what is the right thing to do. He does not take shortcuts. He does not compromise on his values. But then he does what is appropriate to be done. We have discussed earlier that very often we have these two choices, what is right thing to do and what is convenient to do. Very often, because of our preoccupation with what the action will bring me, the preoccupation, the reward involved in action, when reward becomes important, very often the quality of action is compromised. The means is compromised for the sake of end by a rajasic person. For a sattvic person, the means is as important as end, or means is more important than the end. And therefore, so vididrushtaha, he performs an action as stipulated, meaning that as it should be done. So therefore, doing what is right. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti. When a person does the action that is appropriate to perform, right action to perform, without the agenda of the personal reward. Yastavyam evaiti. So what is it that motivates him to do something? Swamiji, if the personal reward is not the motivation, then where is the motivation? Person is motivated to perform action and put his effort when that action brings a personal reward to him. When personal reward is not the motivation, what is the motivation? Yastavyam, I should do it. So, yastavyam eveti manas samadhaya. It should be done. It is my privilege to do something. Then a sattvic person looks upon a given action as his privilege, as an opportunity to contribute something. Not as an opportunity for personal reward, because it doesn't say the need of a reward. Understand that reward, the need for a reward comes from a lack or want in the mind. When the mind is predominant rajas, then you feel very dissatisfied. It keeps in the lack or want is experienced, and that's what drives the person to do things. Which is where the reward becomes important. Because I'm lacking, wanting, I'm needy. On the other hand, the sattvic person feels quite self-sufficient. Therefore, he doesn't need anything as such. So he does not need to perform action to fulfill a personal need because he doesn't feel that. Then what is the motivation? How I can use this as an opportunity to contribute, as an opportunity to do something for others. Yastavyam, I should do this. It's my privilege to do, an opportunity to do. Iti manas samadhaya. This is how the mind, this is a conviction. With that conviction, he performs the yajna or performs any action. So therefore, we can thus look at our mind. While performing an action, I can ask myself, what motivates me to perform the action? Is it the reward that motivates me to perform the action? That's called rajoguna, which you can have. I'm not saying that everybody has to be sattvic, but here, how a sattvic person, what attitude he has? There is just naturally abhisandhaya tu phalam. A person having predominant rajas will always do something for personal reward, for ego gratification, self-gratification or self-gratification. So gratification is the motivation of a rajasic person. He also will do what is proper to do because he knows that then alone he can get the reward. But then his action is performed for the motivation of personal reward, self-gratification. And this one is the gratification of others, that is sattva. Tamas, of course, that fellow performs action, he's not interested in action. He doesn't even have the motivation of self-reward. The tamasic fellow is too dull to be even motivated in any way. But he does it, he somehow finishes it off. Meaning that while performing, he doesn't care whether it's performed properly or not, systematically or not. And what happens to the, that his mind is not there at all. And that is a tamas. Rajas, he has motivation, he has drive, but arising from personal reward. A sattvic person also has motivation, also is equally enthusiastic, but for the attitude of being a useful person. How can I be useful? So this is about the yajna. Ahara, yajna, tapaha and dana. Now Lord Krishna talks about tapas or austerity, which is also a very integral part of the day-to-day life. What is austerity? What is tapas? Basically, a deliberate self-infliction. For example, you decide to observe fast. I mean, there is no compulsion that you have, but by your own motivation, Let us say I'm going to fast on every Saturday, every Thursday, every Monday, on the day of the Ekadashi, etc., etc. So there are people, fasting is one of the tapas or penances. Why do you do that? Well, as an act of self-control, as an act of self-purification, and by the way, this fast in Sanskrit is upavasa. Upavasa means fasting. Upa means proximity, vasa means dwelling. That upavasa or fasting is done for dwelling in proximity with Ishvara, meaning that it is meant for performance of prayers and puja. The idea is that when you fast, then when I am eating, then all my energy is focused upon the stomach. When I fast, the energy is available to my brain, and therefore fasting enables me to enjoy a more alert mind with which I can perform the act of puja, act of prayer, act of japa, and that is the purpose of fasting. But fasting means a certain self-denial. So tapas or penance involves a deliberate self-denial, a deliberate self-infliction, a deliberate self-restraint, meaning that controlling my mind from its temptations and desires and needs, and I perform that as an act of self-restraint or tapas. So this is also a very common thing in all religious cultures, tapas, which may involve fasting is a common thing. But also, various kinds of tapas is performed. In India you find that pilgrimage also becomes a tapas. In the olden days, pilgrimages were done, you generally traveled on feet because even transportation was not available. Therefore, pilgrimage to a shrine or to a holy place also was a tapas. Today also, people walk to different shrines. In the place from where I come in Gujarat, for example, there is a temple of Lord Krishna which is considered very holy. On the day of the full moon, hundreds of thousands of people go there, flock there, and they walk from their residence, maybe 50 miles, 60 miles, 70 miles, 80 miles, 100 miles, maybe 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, depending on how much distance is. They do that every full moon day. Tapas. Some people even they resolve not to sit during that, they just walk, that's all. Not sitting, not resting, etc., etc. And so this is all very famous in India, I'm sure elsewhere in the world also, but particularly in India, where this Sabarimala, for example, in Kerala is a very famous thing, where they walk, I think about 46 miles in course of 3 days, and then before that 41 days of penance, and during 3 days also, they observe strict penance and carry something on their head and minimum clothes, etc., etc. Go to the shrine. At Tirupati, this temple is on the hills, so people climb the hills. Some people, circumambulate like that. So all kinds of tapas are performed. If you go to a temple called Guruvayu, then you find that people, circumambulation, protection is very common. But this will a role. There are very holy mountains or hills. In Vrindavan, for example, there is a hill, a mountain called the Govardhana, which is very, sacred for the Vaishnavas. And they go and then do protection or circumambulation. When you go there, you find that there are some people who prostrate. They don't walk even, prostrate. And that's how the whole distance of 22 kilometers is covered. What to talk of that? People go all the way to Kailas. And would you believe that our people, particularly they're coming from Tibet and places like that, the whole Kailas they do with this protection, this namaskar, prostration. Takes months in that weather. But people do all kinds of things they do. All of this classifies as tapas. This is done with one's own will. As an act of offering to Ishvara also. This is my offering to Ishvara. So thus, the tapas also is a very important aspect of the religious life or even spiritual life. And therefore, Lord Krishna talks of the tapas in the next 3 verses. Now Lord Krishna says tapas or penance is performed at the level of body because we perform actions at 3 levels, level of body, level of speech and level of mind. So next verse, the 7th verse, is the tapas or the penance performed at the level of body. So let us read that verse. Devadvijaguru prajna Devadvijaguru prajna Pujanam shauchamarjavam Brahmacharyamahimsa cha Shariram tapa uchyate. The last word is Shariram tapa uchyate. It is called the penance performed in the level of body. So what is this penance? Lord Krishna says, Deva, Dvija, Guru, Prajna, Pujanam. Pujanam, worship. So worshipping whom? Deva, worshipping devatas or gods. Dvija, brahmanas. Guru, the teachers. Prajna, the wise people. Worshipping them. What is meant by worship is showing our reverence and respect to them. Serving them. Worshipping means serving them. Devatas you worship by the standard act of worshipping. You know the pujanam of the devatas is something well known. Sodasopachara, the pujanam done with 16 steps or 5 steps, etc. But also dvija. Dvija means twice born. A brahmana is called a dvija. Twice born. In those times, Brahmana was a very pious and a respectable person. So today, it may not be Brahmana in terms of birth, but when you find a pious or respectable person, serving that person also becomes a penance. Guru. Worshipping the Guru. And Gurus are considered many. First Guru is mother. Second Guru is father. Third Guru is one who initiates you with the sacred thread and initiates you with the Gayatri mantra. So it was customary that a boy, when he becomes of the age of age, that time is initiated into sacred thread and the Gayatri mantra, and then he qualifies to study Vedas and goes to the teacher and then studies the Vedas. So one who initiates in Gayatri mantra also is called Guru. And then one who gives you knowledge also is of any kind. Knowledge of dancing, knowledge of music, any other kind of knowledge also is Guru. And further, of course, Guru of Brahma Vidya is Guru. So anybody from whom you learn something is called Guru. In fact, in Bhagavatam there is a description or story of, you can call it saint. His name was Dattatreya, was the incarnation of God. He had 24 gurus. So he said, from wherever I learn, he becomes my guru. So worshipping is respecting them. Respect and reverence. And providing service to them. Now what the service is will be decided depending on what the situation is. It may be serving at a physical level, serving them at the, doing their work, giving them food, etc., etc. So serving all these people, respecting them, revering them also is a kind of penance. Shaucham. Shaucham means the purity, external purity. meaning your clothes and body and surroundings are pure or clean. Arjavam, arjavam means straightforwardness, meaning doing all your actions, prescribed actions, in a manner they are prescribed. So making sure that you perform all your activities as they should be performed, as stipulated by the scriptures. So whatever you do according to stipulations. Brahmacharyam, self-control, ahimsa, non-violence. So non-violence also is considered the penance. Avoiding violence. So violence that is carried out at the level of physical, we can avoid. We will see next. We can hurt somebody by our words also, but we can hurt somebody by our actions also. If you are not careful, then it's possible that we may trample over many insects and things like that in a country like India. Not careful, then, you may pluck leaves, you may pluck things like that which are unnecessary. Some people, when they are sitting, for example, in the olden days, there are mats that are spread there and people are sitting there and then listening to discourse. And you find people just pulling threads from that, like sitting, that's all they do. Sometimes sitting on the ground and listening, pulling the grass. Sometimes you don't even know what they are doing, but this is how unknowingly also so much damage we bring about at the physical level if you are not careful. For example, any kind of waste also becomes a himsa. When I waste food, it is himsa. Because I'm wasting, I'm depriving others who are needy. Even when I consume more than what I need, that is also himsa because there is a deprivation. I stock more than what I need. When I need 4 pairs of clothes or 14 pairs of clothes, the 2 pairs of shoes, I have 25 pairs of, etc. All of these also is like parigraha, is all accumulation, hoarding. All of these also comes in violence. So non-violence is a big thing. In living life, it may not be possible to avoid violence totally, but minimizing violence also becomes a tapasya, penance. Brahmacharyam, ahimsa cha, shariram, tapaucchate. This is called the tapas or the penance performed at the level of the body. Okay, rest of the verses we'll do tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Let me make some announcement.
Are you going to announce about the Brahma?
Yeah, that is what I was.
That's what I wanted.
This one, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I want to make an announcement here on behalf of our Vijay Kapoorji. Is this available to people? This handout? At the back, okay. This is available to you. What it says is, people often ask, what are the core tenets of Hinduism? What is Vedanta? How can it help me gain peace and joy in my life? Is Bhagavad Gita part of Vedanta? This and similar are commonly asked questions. So then our Vijayji thought that we can make these kind of questions as the core subject matter, and teaching Gita also as an answer to these questions. Our Vidya Center is starting a 16-week course to answer this question, 16-week course. It will be based on a thorough study of chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita and will be taught in 3 segments. First segment is core tenets of Hinduism, 2 classes. A background paper will be distributed. Vijay is working on a background paper of core tenets of Hinduism. It will be distributed and discussed in the class. This is 2 classes. Second segment consists of 3 classes: Introduction to Vedanta and Introduction to Bhagavad Gita. How Gita presents core tenets of Hinduism and a summary of its first 6 chapters. This will be the segment of 3 classes. And the heart of the course is 10 classes, understanding the essence of the Gita's advice for leading a happier life, the 7th chapter of the Gita. This makes 15 by the way, he did not make 16. 2 plus 3, 5 plus 10, 15. The 16th session will be in the form of an in-class quiz, reflecting key concepts of the course. Later, students will benefit by developing an essay based on the quiz. Class format, duration 90 minutes of every class. 10 minutes chanting of the Gita verses, 60 minutes discourse, 20 minutes question and answer. From 10 to 11:30 on Saturdays. All classes at 691 South Milpitas Boulevard, Milpitas. First class, July 13th, Saturday 2019. To register, please send email to vijaykapoor@gmail.com or perhaps also tell our people at the counter there. Physical presence of students is preferred. Classes will be video streamed on YouTube and also available for later viewing. However, except for the people remotely based, they will not be video streamed for people in this, I guess. They will be able to block that, is it? You can block the video stream for the people who are nearby. They'll be required to attend the class. Those who are remotely based, they will be able to benefit. You're traveling and stuff like that. But the first and last class, everybody is required to be physically present. There's no fee for the course. That's the primary thing. The course will be suitable for both new students and continuing students. For more information, arshavidyacenter.org, please visit. The instructor, Sri Vijay Kapoor, is a direct senior disciple of Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati and studied with his guru in an ashram for 2.5 years. He is the founder of Arshavidya Center and taught Vedanta for over 25 years to hundreds of students. So this handout also is available, and you're all invited to take advantage. As I say, it says this is for both new students as well as continuing students. So everybody will benefit from this. Oh.